Hi, welcome to Jovie's Home. Today I wanted to make a video about the medical system in the Netherlands, like how things work. We're going to cover medical insurance, going to the doctor, going to the specialist, how that kind of thing works here, because it's pretty helpful information, I think, if you're coming from a different country where the system is different than here. So it took me a long time to learn all of these procedures, a lot of trial and error. So I hope you don't have to make the same mistakes that I did. So if that sounds good to you, then why don't you come on in, kick off your shoes and stay a while. I'm really glad you're here. The Dutch word of the day is arts, which means doctor. All right, hopping straight into the basics. Before you can see any doctor or anything like that, you need medical insurance in the Netherlands. Now, medical insurance is required if you live here. If you are registered at the gemeente, you will be required to show that you have medical insurance. If you cannot show that you have Dutch medical insurance, or in some cases, some of the special international stuff, if you work at one of those places, which you will know if you do. But basically you must have Dutch medical insurance. If you don't have Dutch medical insurance, they will find you, okay? There is an agency that looks into that here. You will get a letter saying, hey, we noticed that you're not insured under the national policy, so you want to get insured, please? And when you do that, don't think like, oh, I'm going to wait until I get a letter and then I will, save some money. Doesn't work like that, okay? If you're gonna try to skip out on getting insurance right away, just know that the medical insurance is gonna look back to the day that you registered in the Netherlands, and then they will charge you for the whole time that you've been here. So just go ahead and get registered. This might not be relevant for many people, but I just wanna mention it here. If your partner or spouse is working at one of the international companies and they have the kind of special international insurance that those give you, like the diplomatic ones and stuff like that, just know that if you then go on and get a regular Dutch job and you are participating in the Dutch system, you will be required to get actual Dutch insurance. It will not be sufficient. You cannot carry your partner's or spouse's international insurance unless you are not working. That's it. Okay. Where do we find Dutch medical insurance? Now, it's kind of like a public-private system in the Netherlands with medical insurance, because you have the government that says, okay, medical insurers, here's what you have to cover. Here is the maximum kind of deductible or own risk. This is what every basic policy must cover, and you must offer this to everyone. So you have the government that says, like, these are the rules, and then you have private companies that then go ahead and implement those rules. What this actually means for you is that if you want basic health insurance, pretty much no matter which company you choose is going to have the same coverage, the same deductibles that you can choose from, and they're all pretty much the same. And within a few euros, the cost will be around the same for basic insurance. The differences are really in like the bonus packages or the plus packages or the star packages or whatever they want to call them, the supplementary insurances that are offered. There's a bigger variety in both offerings and prices. The website that I use, this is not sponsored by this website, but the website that I really like to use is independer.nl. You can really compare different insurances. You put in your information, and it's just very handy, very helpful. So that's a good place to start if you are new to the Netherlands. One thing that struck me as different than where I come from in the United States, one thing that's different here is when you sign up with an insurance company, you are obligated to stay with that insurer. I don't want to say for a whole calendar year, because that's not the case. But basically, you cannot change your insurer except between January 1st and January 31st. So if you're unhappy with your insurance provider and it's May, you are stuck with them until January 1st of the following year. That is the way the system is here, and that's how it works. Of course, you can tell them in November already that from January 1st, I'm not going to be with you. I'm going to be with this other insurer. You can get all of that arranged. It's no problem to do that in advance. But a lot of people, every year they sit down, they look at the prices, they compare the things, and they see whether or not they're going to stay with their current insurer. There are some reasons why you might want to stay with an insurer for a longer time. The first one that comes to mind is when it comes to braces, when it comes to braces, some insurers will not cover the cost of orthodontic treatment unless you've been with them for 2 years. So there are some small differences, but overall, and in the majority of cases, it's pretty open, pretty similar between the brands, the companies, and easy to change in that specific time frame. The last thing that's worth mentioning when it comes to medical insurance in the Netherlands is that children under the age of 18 will be insured under the policies of their parents. So whatever policy the parents have, the children will have too. Meaning, if you have basic insurance, your children will have basic insurance. If you have the basic insurance plus the super 5-star supplementary package with all the bells and whistles, your children will have that too. So whatever you are covered with, your children are covered with too. Just because, I live my life like this, I'm going to tell you, I carry only basic insurance. I don't have any supplementary packages, my kids as well. And for us, a regular healthy family without any huge concerns or anything, no need for special extra physical therapy or something like that. We are okay with the package that we have. Basic insurance is just fine. Now that we mentioned kids, let's talk about them specifically. And I think this is really interesting if you're coming from a different system. So in a lot of countries, I know that children get their wellness checks and vaccines and things like that at the pediatrician. It does not work like that in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, all of that is carried out by the consultatiebureau. If you have questions about that, I have a whole video about consultatiebureau. It will be linked here and also in the description. But the consultatiebureau is the entity that is responsible for making sure that kids are vaccinated, they're growing well, they're a resource for parents. If you have any questions, if you're having any issues, struggles with whatever the case may be, that is a resource for you where you can talk to them. However, if your kid gets a cold or is, you have an actual medical concern, you can take your child to the house arts, your family doctor, your primary care physician. And that doctor will be the one that is seeing your kid. And if they have a cold, they will probably tell you to take some paracetamol and keep them home. But if it's something more serious, the doctor can, of course, prescribe medication or eventually give you a referral to go to a specialist, a pediatrician, or any kind of other specialist that your child may need. But it is important to know that there is this whole other consultatiebureau system that takes care of healthy children. They are also employing doctors there, so your child will see a doctor there, but it is a special consultatiebureau doctor, which is different than your house arts. For adults, the way that it works is once you move into wherever you live, you can find a house arts, again, primary care physician, family doctor, whatever you want to call it. You can find one in your area. It's advisable to have somebody that is really close enough to you. I know that in the Netherlands, definitely house arts do some, not all, but a lot, or some. Tell me in the comments, you guys tell me. Mine does. Tell me if yours does too. They might make house calls. So if you are really, really sick, your family doctor might come to your house. And that is why it is advisable to have your family doctor close to you so that they can make a house call if necessary. But yeah, you register with this house arts. You are in their patient roster. And if anything happens, you call them, you can go see them. The house arts are the ones that give referrals to specialists. So, for example, I could not just call up the gynecologist and be like, hey, it's time for my pap smear. I want to come. Can I have an appointment? No. First, I would have to go to my house arts, tell them that I want this. If he agrees, he writes a little referral, and then I can call and make the appointment. It's really important to know that that's the way that it works here. Without the referral letter or confirmation number or whatever it is, you're not going to see a specialist. Again, this is different if you carry the special international insurance that will pay for specialist visits even without the referral of a physician. But in general, if you have regular Dutch insurance, don't do it. Just don't do it. So your house arts will give you the referral to see a specialist. This can be anything from, as I said, like a gynecologist or whatever specialty you need, or mental health services, therapists, psychologists, all of that. All of that is funneled through the house arts. The one thing that the house arts really does not do and is not responsible for is any work-related issues. So if you have a burnout, or if you are sick for whatever reason, and you need to miss a significant amount of time for work, you will be required to also see an Arbo Arts in addition to your regular doctor. So it is the Arbo Arts that communicates back to your employer and says yes or no, like this person is really on sick leave and this is how long they might need for sick leave. But you will be seeing this additional doctor who is kind of like the link between the medical stuff that's going on with you and your work stuff. So just keep that in mind. I want to talk about what to do in emergencies or urgent situations when your doctor is not available, because stuff happens, right? Monday through Friday during regular business hours, if something comes up, if you need to see your doctor, you call your house arts and they will help you. If it is the evening or the weekend and you have an urgent situation where you need to see a doctor, but it is not a life-threatening situation. So, for example, you break a finger, or you maybe suspect you have an ear infection and it's very painful for you, and so you don't want to wait, 3 days to see your doctor. Whatever it is, if you have an urgent situation but not a life-threatening one, you would call what is called the House Arts and Post. For this, I strongly encourage you right now, if you don't know the number of your House Arts and Post, pause this video, Google House Arts and Post in whatever city or town you live in. Put that number in your phone. It is very, very helpful. Put that in your phone, and then if you ever need it, you got it. If you are having a life-threatening emergency, whether or not it is standard business hours, if you think you are having a heart attack, if somebody has fallen and is bleeding from the head, if there's been a car accident and is bad, like whatever that is, if there's an actual emergency, then you would call 112 and get an ambulance. But the important thing to know is don't just think like, oh, I have an ear infection, I'm just going to sit in my car and drive myself to the emergency room without calling first. That's not how it works here. Not only will you get a lot of attitude for doing it the wrong way, but you might not be seen, or, there might be like issues about it, and it's not going to be a nice experience for you. Better to just call the House Arts and Post, tell them what the deal is. They will tell you, you have an appointment at this and this time, at this and this hospital, and you go and you're seen. So that's the way that works. But make sure you have that phone number programmed in your phone, because you don't want to be doing it in the middle of the night when your kid is puking and you're like half asleep and half covered in vomit, and you're like, ugh, what am I going to do? You don't want to be Googling at that time. It is not a good moment. So do it now. While I do like to have these kind of educational videos and not share too much of my personal experience, I think it might be helpful just to share a little bit now. I am the daughter of a doctor. My dad had a medical clinic in the United States. I worked in that clinic for many years. I've been around medical stuff all my life. And so I definitely had a pretty good idea of what good medical care looked like when I moved to the Netherlands, and it took me a long time to get used to the system here. But now with some distance and some perspective, here's what I can talk about in my own personal experience with the Dutch medical system. Number one, you are not going to get antibiotics every time you ask for them. Not because they don't want to give it to you or because it's cheaper for the system or whatever, but we don't always need antibiotics for every single cold. If it's viral, your antibiotic is not going to help. In fact, it's going to hurt you because you are going to be developing an antibiotic resistance. So that is something really to keep in mind. I would be so upset that I couldn't get antibiotics for every cold in the beginning. And now, anytime that I do need to take an antibiotic, I'm like, but are you sure? Are you sure this pneumonia is not going to go away on its own? Are you sure? So it really took a mind shift. But when you understand that the reason that you're not getting something that you want is not because they're being mean to you or because they're being rude or because they're dumb, but you actually understand the reasoning, it's a little bit easier to tolerate, if you know what I mean. Another thing that surprised me was after I gave birth to my first child, I had an emergency C-section, and I was not given painkillers for after. Whereas all of my girlfriends in the United States, they got a 30-day supply of legit, morphine stuff painkillers to help them with the pain. Painkillers are not easily accessible in the Netherlands. Obviously, if you really need something, I'm pretty sure you're going to get it. But the way that that's looked at here is pain is a signal that your body is doing something that it shouldn't be doing. So if you've had a C-section and your scar is incredibly painful because you've now suddenly been trying to do all this housework, it's just a signal that your body needs to calm down and take a step back. You need a break. You're doing too much. And if you medicate over the pain, you might be causing more damage to yourself. So these are some things that I have learned and actually grown to really, really respect in the Dutch system. The hands-off approach, while it's not always the best or the most satisfying, and I'm sure that there will be people in the comments saying, my experience is really bad with the Dutch medical system, or I'm really unhappy that this happened. But look, that happens everywhere. There's good doctors, there's bad doctors, there's things that happen everywhere. But what I want to say here, the most important thing that I want to say here is communication is key, but also understanding a little bit of the why can really help with feeling less unsatisfied with your experience. If you haven't arrived to the Netherlands or if you haven't yet had a chance to experience the medical system here, you should really get acquainted with paracetamol. Paracetamol, if you don't know what that is because you're from the United States, that is Tylenol. That is the the most prescribed drug here, I think. Not prescribed because they just tell you go buy some paracetamol. If you have a cold, you're going to be told paracetamol, drink some tea, and take a week off work. Just sit on your sofa and just be slimy, but keep your germs at home. No medicine for you. If it's serious, of course, you're going to get medicine. But paracetamol is just something that you should really be familiar with because that is an ongoing joke, I think, in this country. Not a joke because it's true, but among internationals, it's the joke. It's like, oh, did you go see your doctor today? Did he give you paracetamol? Yeah, that's kind of how it is. It's true. It's facts, okay? It's facts. All right. Well, I hope that you guys liked this video. I hope that you found it helpful. I would love it if you would share anything that I may have missed in this video or that I didn't cover. Share your experiences. And let's be respectful to each other. I don't often say that, but let's be respectful because we can all have a bad experience with the doctor. It does not reflect on the whole system. We can also have a good experience with the doctor that also does not reflect on the whole system. So feel free to share your experiences. If I missed anything below, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for coming over. I really appreciate any time that you spent with me today. Thank you once again to our sponsor Skillshare. Make sure you check out the link in the pinned comment if you are interested. I will see you guys in the next one. Doei!